Maybe you can bring it up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Control the balls at rest.
Can I get one more?
It's 3:45, and I'd like to call this special commission meeting to order. Please call roll.
Yeah.
Commissioner Haynes.
Here.
Commissioner Sauer. Commissioner Roach.
Here.
Commissioner Bowers.
Here.
Mayor May.
Here, we do have a quorum present for today's special meeting is to discuss the topic of stormwater and funding issues associated with that big problem of well Frankfort. So I don't know the city manager or public works. Public works probably would be.
He was right behind me, so he's on his way.
Let me start out if you please.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor. The City of Frankfort has been working with a stormwater discussion project for quite a number of years. I've been working with it for nearly 2 years myself. And the staff, Mr. Scalf, Mr. Dawson, Mr. Bradley, myself, Ms. Hall, Ms. Cunningham, have all worked together and put together a presentation for you today. It's going to hopefully provide you with some basic information about what a stormwater utility is, why it would be needed, and then some funding options that you can consider. I want to point out that the funding options are not all inclusive. They're just some of the ideas that we had, and we've tried to provide the pros and the cons of each one. I also want to point out that we have been in partnership with the county. We've been working with them for a number of years, and this is not to be exclusive of working with the county, but this is just a presentation to our commission, depending on direction and which way we go. We will need to include the county at some point as well. So I have sent some of this information to county representatives so they know what we'll be talking about this afternoon. So with that, I don't see Mr. Yes. Mr. Bradley,
Right behind me.
he'll be bringing in a person who will also give us some basic information on stormwater, MS4, that type of thing, which we've tried to provide for you. And then we'll start with the presentation.
Great. I will say too, Ed, that I'm trying to think how many times the commission over the years has looked at stormwater issues. It's been a number of times. I can think of at least 3 times before this one, so this is at least the 4th time that we've taken a complete look at it. The first couple of times back in the 90s, when this issue first came up, at the time there really wasn't a lot of sentiment by the commission and staff at that time to really initiate a stormwater utility fee, but there have been some other mandates that have come from state and federal agencies that will require us to probably accelerate the way we handle this.
Mr. Bradley, you're on.
Ready for you?
And I apologize, I lost track of the time. I was meeting with
Okay.
Miss Abigail Raines. She's with the Kentucky Division of Water, and she is the person that we answer to with our MS4 program.
Great.
I'd like to start today, if I could, real quick, and we'll talk very briefly about what MS4 is. I think all the commissioners are well versed in it now. We've had some meetings, but if we could go ahead. Yeah, if you don't care.
Thank you.
So we define stormwater as pretty much any water from any weather event that runs over ground or through our system and goes back into the creeks, streams, or the river. There's a difference between quality and quantity. Quality is how clean the water is. Quantity is how much there is. The MS4, the EPA, governs us on quality. That's what we're. You can see right here, over here listed, the water quality. This is what the MS4 permit covers, and it's just a way of making sure that the water that returns to the streams from our potentially drinking water downstream is clean water. Quantity has to do with the flooding, the flood wall, the pumps, floodplain management, and then our drainage system here in town. This does affect quality. If we have a flood or flooding event, it will affect quality of water. Why do we need to address stormwater? There is an unfunded federal and state mandates that require Frankfort and Franklin County to manage a stormwater quality program. And we must address mapping the stormwater system, building green infrastructure, and other controls, monitoring the system for illicit discharge and poor construction, education of the public and involving them in working towards clean water and maintenance of our existing system. What causes runoff? Anytime that there's any kind of urban growth where they put down an impervious surface, whether it's a roof or a parking lot, the water runs off. It doesn't soak into the ground like it would naturally, and we have to deal with it in quantity and in quality. Impervious surface is just a paved surface that water can't get through. It doesn't allow water to soak back into the ground. Are we required to have a stormwater program because of flooding? So while the stormwater program is needed to manage the pollution and runoff carried by the rainwater, the funding is not directly related to the amount of rainfall. The funding is needed to fund the ongoing maintenance and capital improvements to the entire storm drainage infrastructure. That's from catch basin down to the river, as well as the water quality improvements and flood hazard mitigation programs. So we would include in our program continued maintenance of our flood wall and our flood pumps as well. Why now? We've had these issues for a long time. The regulations every year keep getting more and more about what we're required to do. Ms. Raines can speak to that if you all have questions on that. We're getting ready to start a new permit cycle, a new 5-year permit cycle. The environmental benefits of addressing stormwater, the improvement of water quality, prevention of stream bank erosion, healthier habitats for the Kentucky River and the Elkhorn Creek, cleaner riverfront and park areas, and reduced sewer backups. This is the state's definition of an MS4 program, municipal separate storm sewer system. This is important to know because this doesn't include the downtown area, which is a combined sewer, where stormwater and sewer end up in the same pipe, and they all go to Bill's plant. That water is treated. This is the area around that where it's separate. Current issues. The EPA requires a dedicated stormwater funding source. It's part of what the EPA tells us. We have to say, this is what we're spending on it and this is where it's coming from. We do not have a current dedicated funding source. We can say it comes out of general fund. General fund dependent. Existing programs supported only by business and citizens, not tax exempt entities, government, churches, and schools. This results in a non-equitable funding. There's a lot of properties that are causing runoff that aren't participating in the program. Current issues, we need to talk about if there's a fee in the billing process. We need to look at community stormwater issues. According to our consultant that worked on this originally, our current city stormwater costs are little over $1.2 million. That's looking at Public Works Department and the Sewer Department combined, because they help us do stuff. All of our costs that go into maintaining what's there now, at what level we maintain now. We have federal and state mandates, flooding and drainage problems, and maintenance. And I'm going to talk about maintenance here a little bit. Currently, the maintenance that we're doing is reactive, in the sense that if there's a problem, we go and clean it, but we're not very proactive. We don't have the staff or the ability to be very proactive. And that's one of the things that we're required by the EPA, is to come up with a plan that we're going out ahead of time and systematically cleaning inlets, ditches, storm pipe, so that we don't have problems. These are some capital improvement projects This is separate from MS4. This is a flooding quantity issue. But these are some problem areas here in town that we've looked at. These may be the top 3 right here. These right here all coincide with projects that the sewer department's going to be working on as they go in and prevent surface and groundwater from getting into the sewer system. That water has to go somewhere. And where this is happening, there may not be adequate or even any storm sewer system to handle the water. So a lot of these are numbers based on, what we think will be the issues there. These are just stormwater projects that we know of that aren't necessarily related to that. When we talk about a fee, the most common way that cities use or entities use is to fee based on an ERU. An ERU is an equivalent residential unit, and it's based on the average impervious surface area for single-family residential units. You grab parcels from all over town, residential parcels, you look at it, you come up with an average, you apply that to anything that's residential, single-family. Then you take that and you establish that as your one ERU. Larger properties are assessed based on how many equivalent residential units they are. So if an ERU was 2,000 square feet of impervious area and you had a place that had 100,000 square feet of impervious, then you figure out how many ERUs they have. These are some other communities in Kentucky that are have stormwater fees. This is the rate that they're using. This is the population. That's the revenues generated to manage their program. You can see Radcliffe is close to our size. It's still a little bit smaller, but that's some of the. Currently, there are how many communities with a fee?
26 out of 102.
26 out of 102 that have an MS4 program. 26 have a fee.
Well, there's 42 permits because what happened is Northern Kentucky is there's 33 cities. They've all co-permitted into one. So it actually turns out to be like 42 because like you all are co-permitted with the county. So there's 102 programs, but they're co-permitted into 42 permits.
Okay.
And 42 permits, 26 of those, there's like 10% of those, 25% total have a fee. Ranging from anywhere from $1.75 to, I think, the top one you have there is
Louisville 646.
Yeah, 646.
Okay. The benefits of a stormwater utility would be a dedicated funding source, better decision making and prioritization. The fee is based on the contribution to runoff. It's more fair and equitable from that standpoint. Comprehensive watershed approach. It's a business plan based program. Separate enterprise fund will be established and it's legally defensible. The EPA gives us 6 minimum requirements. These are things our MS4 program has to do. I've given you all a copy of that. I have extra here if anyone needs it. We have to have public education outreach, public participation and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination. Illicit discharge is anything getting into the stormwater system that's not supposed to. Construction site runoff control. That's while site's under construction. Post-construction, this is after everything's built out, but there's still something in place to help keep the water clean. And then pollution prevention and good housekeeping. This is our maintenance for our system. Compliance is a serious matter. The permits are federal and state enforceable. The EPA and the Division of Water can perform audits. Division of Water has performed audits here before. EPA hasn't. Non-compliance carries some pretty severe penalties. That's not compliance into doing the system as a whole. Again, elements of the utilities, all entities pay. The amount of payment is based on the amount of impervious area. There's equality and fairness. And when all entities pay, then everyone pays less, and you have a dedicated revenue stream. We're going to some of the options, but before we get into that, can I answer any questions about an MS4 water quality versus quantity?
Well, I have a question, but it's not about that. So do I have to hold mine?
You can ask it.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. On one page, you said downtown doesn't count for the MS4. Is that correct? I just want to make sure.
Yes, it doesn't count in the MS4. It's still within our area, but it's combined sewer. Anywhere there's combined sewer, the definition of the MS4 is separate sewer.
But can I jump in? Okay. What happens is, as the city, because there's a lot of cities, there's 17 cities that have a consent decree like you all have for combined sewer overflow. As the separation occurs, which is required, or at least hopefully most of them will separate, what that does is that decreases your CSO, but it increases your MS4. Okay? So when you, as Bill gets his stuff fixed, Tom gets more to work on. So I just wanted to let you all know that. Okay, so.
The Louisville Road project might be a great example of that.
Well, and if I can, basically the MS4 program is covered by a permit.
Right.
My system is covered by a permit, which includes the combined sewer area. So the entire area is permitted. It's just under two separate permits.
But we still use the term that they're federally enforceable and mandated.
Yeah, both are. Both are.
Okay.
I had one other question. You had 26 out of 102 that have fees. What are the other people doing?
Well, it depends on, certain people have, instead of having a fee, they chose to put a deadline, a thing in their the budget. But they have to have a dedicated funding source. Even if it is not a fee, they have to put something in there saying we're going to spend X amount of dollars for this program. And and the program, as I've told, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've not seen it get, I've not had less work. I keep getting more work, and just as I get more work, I give more work to the cities, and so it's. This is not the only meeting I'm attending this, this time, because the permit that we're under right now expires March 31st this year, and we're going to have a new permit, and so as we have a new permit, people are recognizing it, and I'll be attending more meetings talking about a fee, because there's more requirements on this permit than there was the last one. Well, when I first got there, the permit was 6 pages long. The last permit we issued was 36 pages long. Just want you to know the level of how they're taking it up a notch.
Commissioner Roach.
Yes.
Yeah, Tom, on page 6,
Mm-hmm.
on what causes stormwater runoff, I got that part, but where it says that, as it rains, there's an increase in the amount of runoff, picks up pollutants, et cetera, eventually into the Kentucky River, and then it says additional runoff can cause flooding, for us to folks say blah, blah. Do we have any empirical data that shows that over the last 20 or 30 years that, because it looks to me like the river is much cleaner than it was 20 or 30 years ago. So why, may not be a question we can answer, but why, if it has become cleaner, is this such a big issue now?
Well, we can address that with the EPA. Go ahead.
Well, back in the 70s, the Cuyahoga River was on fire. And we worked hard, and we make sure now that none of our streams get on fire. Part of the reason why the river is cleaner is because of the work that Bill's been doing and his group. But that water is a source of drinking water for folks. And if you don't clean certain parts of it before it hits the water, then there'll be more they have to take out at the water plant. So it's a pay me now or pay me later kind of situation. We can put out cleaner water to the river, and then could maybe do less work at the. It's always going to be. What we look for is fishable, swimmable, and navigable waters. We want them to be allowed to be. You can touch them. Your kids can walk around in it, wading the creek, fishing the creek, whatever. That's their goal that we're wanting
Right.
for all waters. And so, thankfully, Bill and his group's been working on it, and now it's like stormwater's going to have to pick up the rest of it.
And the river may be cleaner because
It
of
is much
upstream
cleaner.
efforts.
Yeah. But it's gradually become much cleaner in the last 30 or 40 years.
Right. And so
So wow.
it's efforts like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
To make it even cleaner.
Some of it is.
It'd be-
and efforts on sanitary sewer systems as well. But anytime that you have a parking lot, you're going to have oils, you're going to have metals,
I understand.
and you're going to have items like that are going to first flush off. And the idea is to capture them before they get to the stream.
I guess what
So
I'm
it may be cleaner from the sense of fecal coliform, but it may not be cleaner when you look at oils or metals.
So is there any, and I don't want to get too far afield, what empirical data is there to demonstrate whether it's becoming cleaner or less clean, and then how this is going to impact it?
Well, that gets into the testing part of what may come
Like
in
a
the
10
next
year,
permit.
20 years worth of data that would show, trends, and then you would then, after you did this, you could then see what the trend has been and to see whether or not this has had much to do with it or not.
That's a great idea, and that's probably going to be part of our monitoring plan going forward. But the EPA doesn't tell us we have 10 years to come up with that and then do something.
And then you don't have any past data to determine whether or not it's even needed.
We would have data from Bill, but it wouldn't look necessarily into the things that we're talking about.
Okay.
Bill would have stuff looking at it from a from a sanitary sewer standpoint.
Piping.
When a water body gets a total maximum daily load placed on it, that's when the government comes in and says you can't put any more of this pollutant into this stream than than this number, and then that's when you get into really heavy monitoring,
Yeah.
and we start targeting specific pollutants.
I'm just skeptical of their numbers, but I understand. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm skeptical.
Anything else? Okay, let's go on. We've been tasked with coming up with some possible revenue options to pay for the MS4 part and maybe some of the capital improvement parts. And so staff met and came up with a list here of 6. It's probably not all inclusive, but it's 6 options, and we'll go through them one at a time. The first one is no utility fee, just use reserves. The second one is to establish a $2 per month ERU. The third one is to establish the same ERU with a 2-cent reduction in the property tax rate. Do an electric or natural gas franchise tax. Raise property tax 4% per year for the next 5 years. That's the allowable growth rate. Or the 1% increase on insurance premium. And I may have to refer to Steve or Tim or someone else who's more knowledgeable on this stuff. But on the no utility and use reserves, we have a list of the pros. There's no billing and collection costs. There's no additional cost to the public. There's positive public sentiment. Current reserves are $2.5 million, which is roughly 3 months of operating expenses. That's 3 months of the city's operating expenses. The cons are the stormwater costs will compete with other city projects and services. Could put a cost on employees if there's a reduced COLA. Reserve funds can be short-term and affected by the economy. No guarantee of reserve funds in any given year. Non-taxable property will not pay. Stormwater projects or maintenance may not get done. And there's a potential reduced in the bond rating by the loss of reserve. And then we have at the top the average annual residential increase cost, of course, is 0 to that. Although that may not be entirely true, it's still coming from their coffers. $2 per month ERU. The average annual residential increase cost would be about $24. well, $2 a month would be $24. Pros, it generates $400,000 annually.
Engineer.
Generates $400,000 annually after billing and collection. The utility fee is equitable. It's economy resistant. There's a dedicated revenue stream. The revenue generated comes from a broader base. The amount paid per property is lower. The revenue is diversified, meaning the source coming into the city is coming from a different source other than just a tax. Fee based on impervious square footage, and is offset by the removal of the lateral fee in July 2014. The cons for that is we have to send out bills for that, and it costs us probably about $200,000 extra. It's a third of what we generate. It does not generate enough money for all the maintenance and capital. There is a negative public sentiment. The fees that are paid by nonprofits can be controversial, and there's potentially a low collection rate.
Yeah, just on the cons there, the $200,000 for billing. Earlier we talked about billing and collection costs. Are there collection costs in addition to the billing costs?
That includes both.
It does include both, okay.
$2 a month ERU with a 2% reduction in the property tax rate. So the average annual residential increase cost could be $6 less per year. Based on a $24 annual fee minus the $30 annual tax savings, that's based on a $150,000 home. Of course, that varies with the value of the home. The pros to that is the utility fee is equitable. It's the same, a lot of the same ones. Economy resistance shifts the revenue from property tax to actual utility fee. Revenue comes from a broader base. It's revenue neutral as a reduction in taxes equals increase in fees. Dedicated revenue stream. The amount paid per property owner is lower. Similar to option one, since it's revenue neutral, it's a diversified revenue source. The fees based on impervious square footage, and it again offset by the lateral fee, July 2014. The cons, still most of the same. The $200,000 for billing doesn't generate enough money. Negative public sentiment. Fees can be controversial. Potentially reduced bond rating. Stormwater costs are still competing with other projects, or could be. Reserve funds could be short-term and affected by the, I don't know why that was on there. It wouldn't be the reserve. Non-taxable property, I think that's wrong. Yeah, I think we bought them too. But anyway, it's about the same as the first one, but the cons are the same, or mostly the same. What's the next one? Let's see, the gas franchise fee. There's no billing cost. Someone else will take care of that. 1% generates about $450,000. The larger utility, electric or gas users are likely to be larger stormwater contributors. The revenues from a broader base, a higher collection rate, it's comparable to a stormwater fee, dedicated revenue stream, and revenue diversification. The cons, there would be no system for any kind of credits. There's a negative public sentiment, lengthy process to draft a franchise agreement. Not all properties use gas, and it's less fair or equitable than a utility fee. This one is raise the property, take the allowable 4% increase in property tax for the next 5 years. The average annual residential increase cost would be $13 per year cumulative. After 4 years, the annual residential cost would be $52 per per year on their taxes. The pros is higher collection rate, no billing or collection costs, dedicated revenue stream, and reduced use of reserves. The cons is assume Commission won't already take those tax increases for other city needs. It takes 4 years to get to the $500,000 a year, roughly, that we'll need. Burden on the taxable properties only. There is a large percentage that are non-taxable. Subject to economic conditions, there's negative public sentiment, less fair and equitable than utility fee, and future commissions may not authorize. And the last one is a 1% increase of insurance tax. The average annual residential increase cost $20 based on $2,000 annual insurance premium on auto and home. The pros are generates about $550,000 annually. There's a higher collection rate. There's no billing or collection costs. Larger revenue base and property tax. There's dedicated revenue stream. It's economy resistant, and there's revenue diversification. Cons: not all of the property owners pay. The state does not pay insurance premium tax. Negative public sentiment due to increased fees. Less stable than other revenue streams. It's difficult to enforce. Less fair and equitable than utility fee, and requires an inequity with the county, or it will create an inequity with the county.
You did well.
Commissioner Roach has a question for you.
So I just want to make sure I got one thing right, and then I have another question. That's it for this. So, have there been any court challenges? In other words, have any municipalities sued the EPA over this?
Have any municipalities sued the EPA? I don't know.
In other words, refused to do it and sued, saying it wasn't whatever, like they have on some other issues.
I'm not aware of any.
The only litigation that I'm aware of on this issue is whether or not the municipality can actually charge other governmental entities the fee, and the court cases have ruled that, in fact, you can provide the fees or charge the fee to, like, the state and the feds, since we are providing a service.
And that was actually even Washington, D.C. sued to say that they didn't have to pay, that the city didn't have to pay the fee. And they, in fact, lost that case.
I was talking about not that part of it.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't. Like a couple places in Virginia sued. It was a little different than this, though. They were dealing with rainwater, I think, and they were able to. The EPA had broadened their definition of something, and they were able to win on that. But no, to your knowledge, there's been no court cases that have filed or anything like that.
I know court cases where individuals have sued.
No, I'm just talking about municipalities.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, but.
Nothing that, we're not where the city has said we're not going to do the program and you can't, we'll make it do it. We have not had any cases like that.
Okay. Real quick follow up to that. So I'm correct, or you pretty much told me there's no hard data that they've come up with to say that Frankfort, Kentucky has gone from A to B on these issues and as a result needs to do this. This is just a general mandate that applies to every community.
They've not presented me with any data that says this is why you have to do it. Other than the state is telling me.
And they've not presented any data either.
No.
So it's all based on just from the EPA, a general principle that you're assuming is correct, and then you apply it to everywhere.
They're assuming it's correct.
Right.
And applying
so then you apply it to everywhere.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. And last question. The only option I didn't see up there is sort of a combination of some of those we put on our goals, which was pay for stormwater out of general revenues and or the strategic use of reserves, which that's not really up there. It's kind of up there with the one that has to do with reserves. Did you have one that just was like pay out of reserves, Tom?
Use reserve.
No utility use reserves.
Right. But I think the other piece of that is to pay for stormwater out of general revenues and or the strategic use of reserves.
Okay.
And so I think that says something a little broader, and maybe less scary than the other one.
Okay, can you just for my sake, so I understand, what are you talking about there? Are you talking about paying for capital improvement projects out of reserves and increase the budget?
I can only tell you what my preference would be, not what anybody else's
Okay.
would be. I think what you would do is where it says con there at the top, you actually would compete with other things and see if you can fund the things that you need, and then if you can't, then you would strategically use reserves. And then if those things don't work, then you might look at other things, and then you also might bond it. I mean, there's several things. I guess what I'm saying is that this particular option doesn't reflect what I think we came up with on the goals. Doesn't exactly reflect that, and I think that we would probably want to put that piece in there. Because I don't think anybody is going to just want to pay for it out of reserves, because if, let's just say it's $800,000 a year, I'll make a number up. Well, then in 12 or 14 years, if Steve's still working here, he would go and shoot himself, because then there wouldn't be anything left in reserves.
Yeah. And I mean, we only have to look back, 5 years ago, when we couldn't even buy equipment. And because it wasn't a matter of things going to the reserve, we couldn't even make budget, period.
So I guess
I don't know the effectiveness of that plan when you say I'm going to do this for the next 5 years.
No, I'm just telling you what came out of the goals, which is to pay for stormwater out of general revenues and/or the strategic use of reserves, and that up there is not quite reflecting that. And I'm just saying that probably should be one of the options.
Okay. Anything else?
Do you have an idea in terms of maintenance cost over projected time, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year periods, or 2 year?
Well, maintenance is a reoccurring item, and so what we've tried to do is the URS, who was our consultant, they kind of looked at different levels of service, but they were probably maybe rich in all of those, because if you remember, they were coming back with an ERU rate initially, I think, of $6 a month, and then then it was $5, and then it was $4. We probably, at a minimum, we've got to do mapping of our system. EPA mandates that we have the system mapped, and we should have the system mapped. We don't. Stretching that over probably, a 7 or 8 year period is going to be probably $100,000 a year, something like that. You say 5 year period.
We're only giving you 5 years.
Okay. Then to have a two-man crew, add a two-man crew to go around and do some maintenance stuff, there's some additional costs there. We also would like to, it's not MS4 related, but if we could, start putting aside some money for our floodwater pumps. Those pumps are very costly. Some of them up to
half to $750,000
for a pump. So at some point, those are going to have to, at the very least, be repaired. Hopefully we don't have to replace them anytime soon. But to me, it's very forward thinking to start putting aside money in a dedicated account. We know it's coming, and so start putting aside money that we have for that as well. And then if there's any other capital improvement projects, we talked before about bonding them over a 20-year period, and there would be a fee, and we have to pay for that as well.
I think that was my more general last question is, once we get this new system built, however we do it, which is to be built within a 5 year period, I'm just thinking like the ongoing maintenance, after we consider that, the pump stations are going to have to be part of that system, and how does that tie in with our sewer budget and public works budget, or did it all just, we're going to shift money out of the sewer budget and put it into stormwater budget, or has there been thought on, we're going to try to combine that ongoing maintenance into one area that focuses on stormwater, or we're going to say wastewater treatment is still going to be wastewater treatment, but it's still going to have some effect on taking the stormwater that needs to be pumped away from those areas that are going to be the target areas.
Well, from a standpoint of working together, the area where I guess we probably work the closest, although we work throughout the city, is probably in the combined area. You know, if they identify an area where catch basins need cleaning, you know, the public works crews go out and typically do it, but we provide the vac truck and an operator for the vac truck to do that cleaning. If they have pipes that need cleaning, it's typically our vac truck that does that cleaning. We do a little bit of that out in the other area, but minimal amount, frankly, just because we don't have the manpower to do it any more than Tom does. We've got enough of our own pipes to keep up with.
What about retention and detention basins? How do they fit in to...
If a retention or a detention basin is built with a development, it is the responsibility of that development to maintain. If we build regional detention or retention basins, then we would have the responsibility of maintaining those.
Are you requiring long-term maintenance agreements
On
for developers as part of the permit requirement?
it's on their development plan that they'll maintain it.
Okay.
You think that's good or bad?
Well, it's a permit requirement that the permittee have long-term maintenance agreements. And
Most of our detention ponds were already built.
That's good. I mean, I know that. I mean, I live here in Frankfort, so
right,
I know.
yeah.
I mean, I live in Indian Hills. They haven't built a new house in Indian Hills in forever, and so I know that's the case most of the most of the time. I was just curious if you had implemented that, because
No.
Okay.
That might be in those new ordinances that we're going to bring.
Yeah, because it's in your permit to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was also, when you look at maintenance, what you need to look at, there's different kinds of maintenance. There's preventative maintenance. Then there's predictive maintenance. There's preventive maintenance is going to be maintenance that you are just going to do on a routine basis. The predictive maintenance is, look, and I'm just using this as an example. I'm an Indian Hills girl. Okay, let's say we know at 3rd Street and it always floods right there.
Right.
So we need to know, before it rains, we need to go make sure that catch basin's clean. Okay, and so that's the two kinds of, when you talk about maintenance costs, that's the thing you need to look at those two kinds.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Like
Yeah.
the manpower cost
Right.
is going to be something that can be deeply affected,
And you want to cost that out.
especially after hours,
Right.
because when we have storms, when you said that, I know that the basins in downtown Frankfort at Elks Alley, Lewis Street are going to flood unless we go rod them out or get leaves off or debris.
Right.
Washington Street and Wapping is another point, and just those things don't seem to happen.
Right, that's
when
your
everybody's
predictive.
at work.
That's when you know what I mean. That's when you're going to have to say, we know it's going to come rain, an inch, 2 inch, whatever. We're going to have a crew, or they're going to have to go take care of those things.
And I agree. The other thing that too is the way that the storm models are in terms of predictability, in terms of 100-year floods, 500-year floods, 1,000 floods. That model has not been updated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. No reflection against their ability or not ability, but I've argued that point many years ago with them, that the occurrence of 500-year storms has increased. And for those that think, well, it's a storm, that means it's a storm that's only going to come 500 years. That's not what it means. It is the level of a 500-year storm that is what is measured in terms of rainfall or water rainfall.
It must be 0.02%, and it's always more than that.
Right.
You know,
And when you look at the formulas, they're not coming out correct. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you agree with it? I did that. I ran that math model and argued that point,
right.
and just said that the probability of that has changed. So with that, I don't know that there's predictability as to the number of 100-year, 500-year storms or greater that we're going to hit, but we seem to have, at one point, we had 3 500-year storms in the 90s and early 2000s that were all right together. So is there any indication that those models might be changed?
You know, I can talk to our mapping people and ask them who deal with the core a lot. I don't deal with the core as much, and we can find that information out for you. Okay.
Because I think that would
Help.
it would be helpful because,
Right.
as you know, like when we did some of the drainage issues in Indian Hills around Powhatan area, and help me the other.
There's Powhatan, and there's Seneca, and there's
those streets that run to come. So they pull in the back.
right.
And then on the West Frankfort Tunnel, and then we're currently doing Crestwood. That's been a problem for years.
Yes,
Those are major problem areas. So if we get Crestwood repaired, the three
I think we just finished.
were what was the other one? Once those are, hopefully they're.
Phase 1 and
Those
2
are
of
gonna work.
Crestwood. We're doing the final walkthrough tomorrow.
So we'll know after we get through this rainy season sort of how that works. Hopefully it will. Then we'll sort of know there that water is going to be moved to where we want to go to. Again, the West Frankfort Tunnel worked very well, but that's going down. I mean, that's going down the river. So that's just open. We're taking all that water and channeling it out of those neighborhoods.
Right. Collins Lane and different neighborhoods over there.
In the meadows, that whole is all going into everything from the hospital
Yeah.
down to the end of Collins Lane is going down those open ditches and going straight into the river. So that's a lot of water.
A lot of untreated water.
A lot of untreated water. That's not. I mean, that's all coming off the highway, and it's coming out of people's fertilized lawns, all that. So that's what I was saying. Like when we look at those numbers to maintain those systems and try to predict what types of storms we're going to have, and nobody can really do that.
Yeah.
Becoming clusters.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Because she's not going to be here maybe the next time. And it's still back to those numbers of people who have established a fee. Because I noticed after reading talking about your next stormwater phase 2, talking about public education and outreach and public. To me, it seems like we're doing something awkward because we're looking at ways of funding something right now, and we haven't, other than that one open meeting, told the public not much about this. The reason I had to learn more about stormwater is because I kept getting questions. What is this that I keep hearing about? And I see the next phase, I guess it's on all these sheets. You know,
Oh yeah.
you know, keep saying that. Okay, we're going to have public input. Well,
And you know,
Can I answer that first?
Yeah, please go
before you-
ahead. Yeah.
If you remember, there was a last part of the setup. And that last part was setting up the infrastructure of a utility fee. They also had public meetings and informing the public about it. And that would happen before there was ever a final vote from the commission on what to do. And the previous commission, which was most of you all, said, well, we're going to wait on that. And I don't know if that rings a bell.
It was us.
So there is one more before it would go,
not you.
before this or any future commission would vote on a utility fee, there would have to be one more phase, and that would be to set it up and to educate and go that last distance. But there's not a reason to do that if it's not going to pass. And I think that was your all's thinking, was let's wait and see where we are.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think it's okay. Well, your permit has always required to do public education on the program. Okay, and that is where, if you look at your website, people have information on the website because, as you all know, it's a complicated subject and you have to learn about it. And that's where they have it in schools for the kids, different levels, different things, and that's where you all have the Pride program, if they've actually gone into schools and everything. And it's kind of like recycling. 20 years ago, we first started talking about recycling, and now everybody, if you don't recycle, your son or your grandson, they get mad at you. So it's a generational change. Generational. And it's, clicking the seatbelts, same thing. Now my niece says, everybody click your seatbelts. And before I never thought about the seatbelt until, they came around. So that's the thing about it. We're looking for it's a long-term, I hate to use the little buzzwords, but, shift in thinking, paradigm shift of how we're going to be. Because what you want to do is you're training people, and hopefully you think, this is a common sense thing. Everybody should know that you don't change your oil over a storm drain. Well, you don't believe how many of my cities have to go out and stop people from changing their oil over a storm drain. Because it naturally gets rid of it. They don't have to worry about finding a place to recycle it or store it. So it is just, that is what we're working on as a long-term thing. Now, could MS4s be more proactive? Yes. I mean, Frankfort could be more proactive, but a lot of them could be more, 102 programs could be proactive. And like I said, my mother lives in an MS4, and I'm an MS4 coordinator for the state, and she still didn't know what it was. And I'd explained to her what I do for a living. But so that storm education part is a essential component. And what it does is also, and I always tell people, if you're going to start charging people for something, they're going to want to know why they're being charged. That's where the education program can come in, and you can say to people, oh, well, that's what we're going to do. Well, that's what, okay. And they might be very, all for it. And especially as I tell people, if you could do some, I'd say feel good projects around it, where you put a signage up saying this rain garden was provided by the stormwater program, or this park was cleaned up using stormwater, whatever it would take, and put some signage up, some newspaper articles, get that word out, and that way it's easier to to take that in, if you can actually educate them as to why you're doing it.
A minute ago you were talking about a 5-year period. I missed that somewhere. What are you talking about?
Well, the permit comes in 5-year cycles. We're getting ready to start our third.
This is yes. The third year, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we are supposed to tell Abby's office what we're going to do in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Our goals that they've set, when and how we're going to meet those goals.
Right. That doesn't mean the problem is going to be cured in 5 years.
No.
What happens is
that gives them 5 years to think up new problems.
Exactly.
Change the standards, make it higher.
We issue your permit to you, and we give you 6 months to develop a plan as to how you're going to be in compliance with the permit. Because this is. Oh, sorry. You got a question?
I actually can't do
Have you seen a
public
really
comment.
successful program in Kentucky in a similar sized city, and how did they do it with the money that the community was happy to go along with?
The
I'm
city.
not supposed to do public comment because it's a special meeting.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, it's okay. You can do it in the regular meeting, but since
Okay.
and I wish Rob was here, but it's already. Please answer.
He's
I would ask.
He's in the back.
Oh, there's Rob. There's Rob. I can see him. You can go ahead.
I was just going to say, if a similar sized city that was doing some neat things is Danville, Kentucky, because they passed a fee, and their education program they used to pass the fee, educate their citizens why they passed the fee, was very successful. And that's just a person. If you wanted to look at that city as to what you could do, that's a good example.
Let me ask an easy question. How much is the next 5 years going to cost?
Just strictly MS4?
Strictly MS4, that's what we're talking about.
You haven't seen the permit yet. If the permit goes to public notice, will be out for public notice before February the 6th. That's the mandate I've been given by my boss. So by February the 6th, it will come out for public notice for everyone to look at. The citizens and everybody, the cities, everybody will have 30 days to comment upon that, and then it'll go off public comment. And I'll get like 30 days to respond to all those comments. And then it'll become official.
There are a couple other unknowns in that as well. There's the education part that we're trying to
Well,
get.
if we're going to pay for something, we need to know how much it costs.
I agree, but there's some of it we're trying to do for free or for low cost, but people haven't come on board to do that yet. There's we don't know how much the mapping is going to cost until we put it out there for an engineering firm or a surveying firm to tell us how much that's going to cost. I'm judging it based on what it cost Bill to map his system, which was
Best guess around 800.
And we have to do the mapping.
yes, the EPA requires it.
So you figured that at about 500 grand, didn't you, at one time? Or did you 100 grand a year?
I was figuring between 5 and 7.
Okay.
Because I thought a 7-year payout.
Now,
at
you,
about
now you know it's 5.
I know I got to do it in 5,
Okay.
or should have done it in the last 5.
So 5 to 700.
Did that answer your question?
Is
I'm sorry, did that answer your
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
you know, we've had a number, and I know it's an approximation, and I guess I'll ask if that's still kind of what we're thinking, which is when we hit this pretty hard the last time, we were thinking 680 to 980. When we hit it with the consultants, we were thinking about 1.2 million, but that included a high number for fee collection and some other things. So are we still looking at 680 to 980, which included funding of capital projects and your maintenance and your MS4 plan, or what number? Do we have an approximate number to go to Commissioner Sauer's question? Or
Well,
can you get us an approximate number?
I think we were looking at trying to get around 500,000 a year for the next
Somehow,
5
some
years.
way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Answer your question.
Well, I don't know that there's real good. It's hard to answer, but I'll go with it.
I think something that would help with on the education side, if people could understand the difference between illicit discharges versus rainfall. And I don't know if other communities have, other communities, not just in Kentucky, but around the country, have been able to get that information, that education component out to the public to understand the difference between what illicit discharges are, and there are probably more illicit discharges that cause problems than rainfall. And I don't know if I'm misstating that. From some of the research that I've seen seems to indicate that there's more problems through illicit discharges than the rainfall.
Definitely. And illicit discharges, which is not the greatest name in the world for illicit. Anyway, illicit discharge, what's that? And illicit discharge is basically anything that is not rainwater being in the storm water lines, storm sewer lines. I mean, in the city in Kentucky, we won't name names, but there was water flowing on a hot summer day, and it's like, it's not rained in a week. Where's this water coming from? Well, it's the city's requirement is to check and find out where the water's coming from. It's illicit discharge, and it was coming from the embalming room of a funeral home. I mean that's how bad it can. I'm not saying that. Don't say it's scary, but it's also it could be an air conditioner condensate. I mean, you know what I mean.
Right.
So it's different levels, but that's where it's upon the MS4s to actually go and track that down and see where those are, where it's coming from. And if it is a truly illicit discharge, like that, to correct it. If it's air conditioner condensate, then maybe you enjoy some cool air conditioner for a minute. But I mean, that's what Tom's tasked to do. That's what all the MS4s are tasked to do.
And in a short or small system, it's easier to find.
Yes.
Without mapping, if it's a long system, it makes it more difficult to find. Some of the things that we've had have been washing machine.
Yes.
Someone puts a washing machine in the basement, and they put the drain out, and the soapy water gets into the system. Or we had a case of a lateral that broke, and we were able to find it and fix it because of an illicit discharge. The area was wet when it was August, and everything else was bone dry.
Well, and it's also, and I'm just going to throw this out there, it's an asset. I would think that you all would want to know what you own and what needs to be. When is this, is this cracking? Do we need to replace it? What's our time frame? That would be something I would think that you, as a city, would want to know. As most cities do. It's just taking it. And also, I realize Frankfort's a very old city. And so it's going to take some inferring of where the line would be coming from and all that. I realize you don't want to tear up the whole downtown looking for pipes, but also think that you need to have a starting place where you actually have a map with just something besides outfalls. You need to know where those lines go. Yeah.
But I think, so folks understand, it's not just about rain. And I think that's been a thing that some folks have said they think it's just directed towards rainfall.
And it's not. It's what there's a thing that we have, and people use it. It's like in the springtime when people are going to put green and fertilizer on their yard. Don't over fertilize. And if you are going to do something, make sure that you check the weather. You don't want to put it on your yard and have the next day, that in the evening it run into the storm drain. Because you're wet. One, you're polluting the storm drain, but two, you're wasting product for yourself. You just cost yourself money. And also, people, you don't want to let people put leaves in the ditch line, because that is actually, you think leaves, that's not a big deal. But leaves, it breaks down into nutrients and it pollutes the stream content and things. So it's not just rainfall, because if it was just rainfall, we'd be okay.
Right.
But it's people, we all do it, we're consumers, we live here. It's our response and how we maintain our environment.
Well, I think that's helpful. Unless y'all have more questions, we could focus a little bit on the funding aspect of it for a bit if you all want to. If you want to digest this and let it sink in, and then maybe have questions for the next time we get together to talk about stormwater, which we'll be talking about this for a while, of course, as we have been. But now it's to the point where
we have to do something. We have to decide how.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, you
Well, I think the commission expressed itself pretty clearly in these goals and objectives that we've been working on for a month. And under stormwater across the board, this commission suggested that we go ahead and identify 3 projects that had the greatest impact from removing stormwater. As Commissioner Roach alluded to earlier, the first one was number 1 across the board, and close to it was the idea of strategic reserves. I would add bonding and loans possibilities that we might get. I understand grants are out of the picture, but I don't know if they are totally. And I would say, we have a finance director, and the idea of letting the finance director determine a funding source was 4 1s and 1 2. So the average was 1.2. In our goals and objectives that we've been working on. So I don't want to dump that into his lap, but I think that was the direction of the commission.
And as we get into it, we may find that we have to shift what we thought was going to work or what our preferences were based on what we get back.
Well, yeah. I think I appreciate the different options that you guys have come up with. That took a lot of work. I guess if this is the time to ask the questions and we're on the clock with 12 minutes, I'm going to whip them off. What did you all, Steve and Tim, which option did y'all like the best? You gave us a bunch of choices, but what's your all's recommendation?
Thank you. I think it's safe to say our committee really didn't have one recommendation. I can tell you 1 or 2 of us thought the property tax was a good way to do it. There was a lot to be said for no billing and high collection. That was a big plus. 1 or 2 thought maybe the insurance premium for the exact same reasons, only the insurance premium is a broader base. I think if you look at the property tax, it's a smaller base, so ultimately it's a higher cost for each property. If we had a billing system that wouldn't cost us a couple $100,000 a year, I think the committee would have favored the stormwater utility fee more than it did. The equality of the stormwater utility fee was a high priority for everybody across the board. The downside was if it cost us $200,000 to bill and you're only getting $600,000 for a $2 fee, it really didn't make financial sense. So I can't say our committee recommended one, but I would say the two that maybe stood out a little bit higher were the property tax and the insurance because of no billing, high collection.
All right, well then my follow-up to that is, if that's the preference, it still looks to me like we need for you guys to go further with this goal for pay for stormwater out of general revenues and or the strategic use of reserves, because that was an NMI 2, 1, 1, and 1. And although we have reserves up there, we don't have that combined. And it looks to me like if that, and I don't know what everybody thinks now. They may have a different idea now, but that looks to me like something that we need to get direction on as to how that could be done, and then make a decision based on, I don't know what everybody else thinks. But that was the goal that we put.
Oh, Commissioner.
I kind of like the electric gas franchise, but because that doesn't have a billing cost, it's got a high collection rate. And what did you guys think of that?
City Attorney Mr. Moore did give us a process that would be
It's lengthy.
it's very lengthy, and it includes a bid process.
That's right. There are a lot of, in my opinion, downsides to the franchise, because the franchise fee is really that you should not impose a franchise fee, in my opinion, to generate income to develop something that's totally unrelated to the franchise, something that's totally unrelated to electricity or the provision of gas. Because there are a number of inequities in connection with the franchise fee, such as if you impose a franchise fee on gas, there are a number of people in Frankfort that don't have gas.
Okay.
So they don't pay any
Okay.
for the stormwater utility.
And it's just it's lengthy to get that set up, is that?
Well, you would have a bid process.
All right, thank you.
I think we're still at that fundamental question, and since we only got 8 minutes, I won't talk long. But the same thing we talked about the last time we talked about this, although I think we're much better informed than we were, and we know a whole lot more. We're still at a fundamental issue, which is, do you want to use some sort of a mechanism to get more money from the taxpayers to pay for this, or do you want to try to pay for it with what the taxpayers are currently paying? And depending on which way you go will depend on what your position is on that. This one goal is to use what current money we have coming in and use that to pay for it. Another way would be to have some sort of a fee, which would be a new revenue coming in. Those are the two options. It's pretty simple.
I think the fee is probably more equitable, and it doesn't strap us if it comes to, there's other things we might need to do later, and part of our general fund is already committed. So I think the fee makes it equitable, and I guess it's the way that you present it, but we got rid of a lateral fee last year. I mean, it's not the same money for this, it's not the same thing, but if you look at that in comparison, well, we took one fee away. The cost of the new one would be basically you're out of pocket about the same amount. Nothing's changed in terms of you're out of pocket more now. I kind of like the fee better because it's committed exactly for that, and it's not taken out of the general fund, which we may need for something else at some point that we can't predict.
So which fee are you liking?
Well, let's look. The based on the RU with
ERU?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Well, I'm not for it. I'm for making do with what we have and figuring. I think if I think we can't come. I think we should be able to come up in a $33 million budget with $500,000.
Well, that's an option. Is that what everybody else?
We're voting on an issue tonight
Right.
regarding a pump station and a $10 million retention basin that costs $7.3 million in the sewer department. I think we can take care of the public works department for less than that.
All right.
But I'd have to say that just for the record, so you know, I would be more in agreement for the $2 fee across the board. It's equitable. I understand even these other ones wouldn't be equitable, and even if they're lower, we actually would have been paying less money. The $4 we took off, we're looking at about $48 for a year a home. And most of the people I talk to, even though they don't know much about it, the fee has not been a big thing right now. One way or another, now if we'd have hit them with a $10 fee, yeah, even if we had to $4. But and that's why I asked the question about when are we going to advertise this thing? Because if they know, if we're going to have resistance, we want it early. Because that could really steer us in the direction. I just hate to, and I'm not one that I call it a fee because tax is a little bit different. But either way you think on that, $2. Our gas prices have been down for a while right now. When they were up, we don't complain until they got up to close to $4. Nobody cut a lot of trips in half, but it's one of those other things that have been increasing. People hear about it, but they have to understand the education piece has to be there on any of these. Even if you utilize the money that's currently in, that's their money too. So if we utilize that, we're going to say, well, we're utilizing your money a little different. If we have to fall short on some other program, it's because we have to do this. It's mandated. But we're under a short time limit here. I appreciate all of the information. I know more about stormwaters than I ever did. And it is not an easy task, and I'm sure with all the head knowledge we have around here, I would accept however we end up paying for this thing, but we need to start doing something while we're here, and all heads are clear that we need to start down this road. If we end up using some general fund money, that's fine. If that's a start, I don't know if I want to see committed $500,000 a year out of the general fund. We've been on some good runs, but can't say good runs going to last forever.
So are you, Commissioner, are you for the utility fee?
Yes.
So how are you going to collect it?
Well, I just say I'm for it.
I understand that, but I'm just asking that one detail.
I don't know, but it'll be a utility fee. And hopefully it'll be collected the same way that somebody just said it'd be, if they were doing utilities here, it would be, I know we already do property. Insurance we already do.
No, the only fee we do that'd be like this is garbage, so I'm waiting for y'all to give me a good idea on how we're going to collect more than 70%.
And you bring up a good point because that part of it gives more favor to the other two items you just mentioned, which is still a fee. Whether it's insurance fee, it's property fee, it's a fee. And even the people on the outside are going to have to know that. Okay, this is going up because of this.
So the utility fee, I assume, unless things have changed, that still means that if let's just say you're my old job and you're the Frankfort Christian Academy and you've got this huge parking lot, and I realize the water's coming off that parking lot, I understand that, but now you might pay, I'll just make something up, you may pay $4,000 a month, or if you're the local university, you might pay $10,000, and if you're the state, you might pay oodles. That's what this means, correct?
It'll be half of whatever they.
Half it was at $4.
That's right.
But that's what it means. It doesn't mean, it just means $2 if you're a house, but if you're a property owner or commercial or whatever, it's going to be a whole lot more than $2.
Right, and that's $2 a month.
Right.
Got it.
Can I add something to
Sure,
that?
go ahead. Let's see if I can
If you look on what URS prepared, I think they used a $4 a month
They did.
ERU, but they did several of those entities.
They did do Frankfort Christian Academy, I remember.
Okay.
And they did K-State.
Right.
Well, I had a question. I think we talked about this in the hearing we had over across the river. If we put the fee in place, based on the impervious surface, the average, the
ERU.
yeah, ERU, thank you. It seems like I heard somebody over there say in that hearing that we would there be a sunset, a time in which that would go away, or would that just be, would we would then like have it forever? Well, I guess we could get rid of it like we did the lateral fee.
We only got rid of the lateral fee because they never did anything with it.
Well, we got rid of it, but it seems like I heard somebody say over there that we would probably keep it for
like
a very,
the
very long
Danielle.
time. And that we would.
You could try a sunset law, I guess, with it.
Kipling and the
Can I address that, please?
Sure.
That's for later.
If you're talking about any of these that's going to pay for maintenance, well, maintenance is a continuing thing it's going to always go on.
Right.
It's very unlikely that the EPA is going to discontinue the MS4 program and the mandate that they have right now.
They're more than likely tighten it.
More than likely would increase.
More time.
So that's kind of the answer to that.
I can't answer any more questions because I think it's 5 o'clock already.
You know, maybe adjournment? Or do you want to go and?
What's the next step?
We can also talk more at the beginning of our commission meeting. We can just continue the meeting in there,
Sure.
if y'all want to.
I think we still need to give yes.
Is this yours?
Okay.
So are we
What are we
recessing?
yesing to?
I'm sorry.
I think we never wrapped this up, did we?
Well, we're not going to
Come back.
continue the meeting in the session, are we?
Well, we could go
You
into
can
the
do
other
that, or you
meeting,
can come
recess
back
and
and-
come back and finish this.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
All right. We have a motion to adjourn on the
I make a
table.
motion
Recess.
to adjourn. Or recess. I make a motion to recess.
Recess.
Right.
Commissioner Rowe, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Sal. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. I said it. We'll recess until the conclusion of the regular meeting.
So we're going straight on in there.
Where I have the hardest.
Well, you
time.
don't want
There's
to.
times when the
It's
person
easy on
I like
Lynn.
them.
See if I can make
You think this is public works or?
It's a Louisville shot.
Yeah, where Commissioner Oak sits, that's the one spot. I
Is that
can't
art?
see if people, where Tommy is, if Tommy's sitting forward or you're sitting, it completely
see.
blocks him out.
Well, that's okay too.
That's the steps that are going down to the
No,
river.
that's art.
Katie
That
saw it.
actually, can you see that with a frame around it, and we could say it was like a.
Okay, we're back in
Right.
session and we were talking about funding mechanisms.
Mayor, I
Oh, I
have
forgot to
a-
mention, I just bought a
A Ferrari?
Ferrara fire truck. Ferrara fire truck.
Bought a Ferrari. Is that on the record?
Yes. Mayor,
Mr. Bowers.
could we maybe do this? Go out of the general fund for a year, and then could we read it, and like after that year passes, if we find that we need to create it, it's a 5-year, are we stuck with it, with whatever we do for 5 years?
No.
5-year
Okay.
covenant.
No.
So we could go with the general, out of the general fund for a year, and if we see that it's causing us undue problems, then we could switch over to the ERUs.
The utility fee.
He's the mayor.
I know. I'm waiting to be
Oh.
recognized
Oh.
after
I
you're
was,
through.
I was trying to let that sink in too.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we could try it Commissioner Roach's way. I'll call it your way just because you, like, keep pushing it on us, but that's okay. It might be...
I sure don't do very well at it, though.
No, it might be...
Been pushing
might-
at it for 2 years.
You know, we could try it that way, and if we see that it's not working, then we could switch next year to the ERU.
You.
The fee.
Yes, thank
The
you.
fee based on ERUs.
Yes,
Mayor, are you finished?
for now.
Was that more of a statement, or you want to ask? You want
Well,
answers to that, or
because-
just making that as a recorded statement?
I was just putting it out there because
I think it's a very good possibility.
I think that, because either way will work.
Okay.
And if we can do it that way, and it works well, then we would save having to put on the citizens yet another fee. And then if it doesn't, then we can always come back the next year.
Or in the months, we don't have to wait. We don't have to look at it as a specific time frame.
Because we can always amend the
Because
budget.
we can do it anytime we want.
Right. Okay, let's do that. That's my suggestion. But
Okay, Commissioner Sal.
I was just, in all consideration of everybody, and the amount of information that was foisted on us today.
Yes.
I don't mean to say foisted, that we that we consumed today. That, Mayor, I think it would be best for all concerned if we slept on it, whether it's Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon. Not a long period of time, but it gives us a little more time to think about it, make our decisions, and then come back here and make a decision.
Okay.
Wednesday afternoon or
I
Tuesday,
can't-
depending on schedule.
I can't do this week.
I think we were going to. This would tie in when we were doing our budget cycle primarily, unless I was wrong on that. But that's the assumption. No, I'm not going to say assumption. That was the understanding I had, that this would coincide with the.
We're just trying to plan for our 5-year.
And we don't have to do that
and know what.
right this minute.
Well, I have to by.
Well, the quicker
I'm
we
talking about
do
like
it.
the budget cycle. We could do it.
Well, they
prior
need
the
to start
budget.
planning their
I just need
budgets.
an idea of
Exactly.
a number.
That's what I meant. We don't have to do it this week. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. We don't have to come back and make that final decision this week. If we're leaning a certain way, so the public works and others can adjust the budget requests that are going to be coming in, that are already coming in now, and that we will start looking at April, or if not sooner, but typically April.
Well, let's see.
Sounds
If
good.
we can reach a majority by Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on
This
everyone's
week?
schedule. Yeah,
This week?
Tomorrow's Tuesday.
I mean,
tomorrow's Tuesday.
if
Yes,
we're going to
I
vote
know.
on it, then we
Sleep
have
on
to
it
have
overnight.
we have to have a.
Well, if the
We have to
majority's not
24
there, then we
hours.
can't. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Wednesday afternoon,
Well,
if your schedule
I
permits.
won't be. I can't do Wednesday. I can't do this week at all. I can do next week.
And I'm somewhere.
Me too.
Could
Well, I
we-
think what Commissioner
could we not
Sauer
do
was
it-
saying was if this is not something that people feel comfortable making a final decision on tonight, that we go back and read through the material, because we did get some other material that we didn't get a chance to read that may help make a decision for someone in terms of, do we want to go with one of the different funding items that were listed to us, to think about that and go back and really digest those and say, you may change your mind tomorrow when you wake up. It's like, wow, sure wish I didn't support that one. Because there may be funding options, and there certainly are opportunities for others to throw out other funding options that were not listed here. Because I know when the consultants, I don't remember their names, put the information together, I think they recommended a fee based on the EIUs, but also on what it would take for maintenance and ongoing project fees that we may not be able to think about. And that's why I think instead of saying, their recommendation, I believe, was don't just take a fee that will get the project done at this level, but make sure you build into it for expansion and for maintenance.
That's what they were saying.
There it is.
So
Yeah.
We've had
So
several
that we
numbers
could
thrown
give
out.
direction to the Public Works Department and the Finance Department.
We could
I
actually do
think
that
would
in a
be
work
good.
session next month in 2 weeks, right?
well, let me ask, is if we wait till our next work session, is that too late?
No, I don't think so.
I won't be there.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I would.
Well, you want to change the work session day, since it's a big issue. I mean,
How about, if this week is not good, what about next week?
The second,
Whatever next week.
February.
first Monday's the second.
that's fine. Me?
That'd be good for me, or Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever
and would
works
you like
for
to
you
make
all.
that, since you're going to you want to make that the work session for February, since there's no point in all this getting back together twice, if we can do it all in one meeting.
Whatever you
Oh,
want.
is the second next Monday?
The second is the first Monday. I can do any time on Monday.
Oh my gosh, Groundhog Day.
Well, that's a short window for staff.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Put it
I have to
together.
say it.
Okay. How about later that week? I'll leave on Sunday, the 8th.
How about the 5th?
What about the 5th?
Because primarily Commissioner Bowles, I think
Those-
she's on the film on Mondays.
well,
Oh, yeah.
like those days, Tuesday and Thursday, like I'm all day. Well, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. On Thursday, I could do after 4:30.
Well, there we go. How about 5 on the 5th?
That works.
5 on the 5th, is that okay with me?
Yeah, and we're having that just to finish up the stormwater.
I think we
That's
go
right.
ahead.
Well, I
Just-
think it was going to be in a place,
Let's do the
in
work
place of
session.
our work session.
It's
so we
only
don't-
3 days later.
So
4
that
days
would be
later.
part of it.
We go in and
That's
knock
gonna
them
be our
both
work
off,
session.
right?
And the challenge is, can we reach consensus?
Oh, that's right. And he said that that's going to be our work session also.
Yes.
Okay.
That'll be our
That's
work
what y'all wanna do.
session?
Okay.
Because it's
5th at
important.
5.
Since we all work well
Do I
together.
need to make a motion to that effect?
No.
Okay.
So we just reset our work
What
session,
we
so
would
we're
do
not
is we
coming
would
on the ninth,
cancel
right?
the meeting on
Good deal.
February the 9th.
Okay.
And have a special meeting on February the 5th
All right.
to just
To
in
do
lieu
this.
of, to say in lieu of the regular work session, which is actually
Thank you,
commissioner.
Mayor.
Now, does that make,
Thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. And if you don't want items on the agenda, you need to
That
just
was
let us
where I
know
was
so we
headed.
can make sure that you are covered on items that you would like to bring
Well,
up.
there's only one little problem with that. I don't want to bring up our usual problem because we
What's
want to
that?
stay harmonious.
What's that?
But that is, as you know, when you ask to have something on the work session, typically around here, we wait for 3 people to say it's all right. Well, you might be waiting till the next comment that hits the earth
Well,
for that.
could we put other
Oh, yes,
business
well,
on the
because-
agenda, and then that would incorporate everything?
Not for a special meeting.
Even though you
That's the only
said-
thing. It does limit if
You
Well,
can't
you
put
won't
other
get
business.
anything on there.
if one commissioner wanted to bring up something the other commissioner didn't want as an agenda item, the way the system works is if, say, 4 of us didn't want something on, 4 of you didn't want something on, but I want something on, I need to choose myself. In a special meeting, I can't bring that up unless it's an agenda item. In a regular meeting, I could bring that up and just say, I would like to add this item to the agenda, and you all can choose
Then
to do it or not. And it's just a check
Can
and
we not
balance.
dispense the rules by
That's what I was going to ask.
unanimous?
No,
No,
because
this
it's
is
a state
state law.
statute
No.
on that one.
Well,
Mayor.
boo.
I got a way to get around that. I got a way to get around that
I do
after
too.
Commissioner Bauer.
There's lots of ways around
Well,
that.
one way is just to say for just this one time,
Yeah.
anybody wants something on the
Yeah,
work
let's
session,
do
we
that.
won't have to
Is
have
everybody okay with
3
that?
votes. We just get it on there.
Just put it
That's
on
everybody
there.
okay with that?
I'm cool with that.
So anything goes on the work session.
Now, how soon does she have to know?
Maybe not.
Typically 3 days before the,
3 days?
at minimum 3 days.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, we're putting together the regular meeting agenda and the work session, so there's a lot of work here.
Right. So
Okay.
when do we need it?
By
Well, let me
noon on
think about
Tuesday?
it.
Instead of that, you're going to do
I would say by the 30th, actually, the
Oh,
Friday.
good.
If you could get it to me and I could do a draft by then.
Draft, final, produced on Monday? Monday the 2nd?
I would produce the final probably on Tuesday, the 3rd.
Okay. So we'll try our best to have it in here.
We'll just have to all
Friday.
be generous here.
So you want it by
Hope
Monday?
works.
By Monday. Mayor,
Wait a minute, she says Friday, you're saying Monday.
If I could have draft
January
items
30th.
by Friday the 30th,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
that's this Friday.
Yes, it is.
And that way everybody gets to get their say and not feel like they didn't get to. And the way this works too, commissioners, if we could bump somebody on one meeting, but then the next meeting they're going to get a chance to bring it back. So there's no point in trying. I don't like the political game where people try to keep things up because it makes one person or 2 feel like they're getting really pushed out. But and we can discuss it. And if we don't have the vote, you just don't have to vote. You just don't vote on it. If you get a chance, we want everybody. I think we all agree. We all want everybody to get a chance to do it, even if it's a very minor. Or they're in the extreme minority.
So we're going to send out an all points bulletin maybe tomorrow morning to department heads. If they have something, they need to get it in there by
Oh, yeah.
Friday.
I cracked that one.
Don't worry, she's already on that. We didn't have to bring that up.
City manager.
We did have a couple of people who have talked about or asked to be on the February 9 agenda. Mr. Ed Council, for one, to talk a little bit about the trail towns. So we can contact those
Yeah,
folks
he'll
and
come
just
back.
give them an opportunity. I think Rob talked to me about land and water, and so we'll just contact those folks and see if they're prepared to come for the 5th as well. Is that okay?
Sure.
Either that or we can push them to March because of the stormwater issue. Because those items are important. And they could always, in advance, send us any presentations in writing or if they don't have to do it.
We'll get a hold of them tomorrow. Just
All right.
So that way, this is sort of, everybody, this is a freebie for people
Give me a
that.
high five.
It's like high five.
Well, I wish I had more.
Well, you might be able to think of something. You go home and scour your
That's
notes.
for your benefit.
Scour your notes.
Oh, man.
Commissioner Bowers.
I was just going to say, is it really necessary that we have to? I don't think we would actually need to cancel the Monday regular meeting until after the meeting on the 5th, and if we get all of our business done, we could cancel it that night. But if something happens, we need more time, then we already have a regularly scheduled slot that's open that we could cancel at that point. Because if we cancel it now, then we run the risk of we may have to call another special meeting.
Fine with me.
Can we just wait till the 5th to
It's
cancel
okay
it?
with me, I won't be there on the 9th.
We'll probably end up canceling anyway, but it's just a fail-safe.
That's fine with me.
It just, and we'll try not to do that. But it's easier to do it that way than to have to look for another time
I
later
like
on.
thin pizza if you want to try to bring something together.
It's fine with me.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, hold on. This is our new thing.
They both got two.
We have flip
meeting
phones.
Oh, no.
Oh,
That's
my
right, 'cause they don't do anything else, so it might as well be high five.
Yes, enough. What's next?
All right,
I make a motion.
Do we adjourn?
We're so old.
Wait.
Make a motion.
Wait,
I second
Let me
it.
get the page, Karen.
Wait.
No.
That's
Well,
what
the
I'm
clerk.
asking.
Make a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Who made the motion?
Commissioner
Make a
Roach.
motion to adjourn the special meeting.
And who seconded?
Seconded by Commissioner Haynes.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
We've already mentioned the purpose, so we don't need to do that again. Okay, thank you. I'm learning.
Just for
You're
clarification,
just relearning.
that when we adjourn the special meeting, we will convene a special meeting for 61A sub 1 sub C, potential litigation. So there's no further discussion on adjournment. I will ask for those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. If we adjourn, now we're going into closed session.